Welcome back. And this week I want to talk about failure. And it is a subject that we are all very intimately acquainted with, but most of us would rather not deal with it. The first thing that I think we need to establish is that failure is an absolutely necessary part of our lives. And that is a mental shift that we all need to make. So seeing failure as an intrinsic part of life rather than something that you avoid at all costs. Because if you spend your whole life behaving to avoid failure, I'm going to suggest that you're just not taking the risks you need to take. You're not pushing yourself. You're not putting your head above the parapet. You're keeping yourself in your nice little cozy, comfortable box, but you're not actually going out there and pushing yourself and taking risks, because it's when we take the risks that we might fall flat on our face. What you need to understand is that that's absolutely okay. So the first thing we want to talk about with failure is completely reframe failure as a concept. It's a necessary part of our lives and something to be embraced, not avoided. So, you might look at comedians, singers, actors who you see on telly or on social media, and you just think, oh my God, they're brilliant, and they just popped out of nowhere, supposedly. If you sort of ferret around into their backgrounds, you think about comedians, they've probably spent, certainly in the UK, you imagine they've spent years working the working men's clubs, to an audience of a drunk propping up the bar and one bloke and his dog, and a heckler. And it's called honing your craft. Actors who have done lots of bum films with crap reviews, and then suddenly they hit the big time and you just think, wow, they're amazing. They're amazing because they've learnt their skill, they've learnt their craft, and they've honed their craft. And that comes through doing stuff that's not fabulous and not great and that they're not particularly proud of, but it's all part of their process. Let's look at failure differently, right? Let's frame it differently. Let's see it as necessary, see it as integral. And when you do fail, as we all will, and we will keep continually failing, and it could be small stuff, it could be monstrous stuff. And I've had my massive fair share of cups over the years. And some I still look back on and I still get that slightly cringy feeling in my stomach because it was so it was so kind of visceral and real, and it had such an impact. But we go through stages when we fail, and I think it's important that we have a look at these and break them down and think about, okay, are you ticking all these boxes? If you look at something that's gone pear-shaped, are you actually going through all these stages and honouring them all? Because it's very easy when we fail to want to kind of forget it happened. This could be for work, this could be work related, or it could be personal. What I might do for this example is frame it more in the work context, because we do spend an awful lot of our time at work, and that is one place where we are likely to screw up for lots of reasons, and rightly so. So, okay, stage one, you realise something has gone wrong. The one thing you need to do right at the outset is to actually flag it. So don't be an ostrich, right? Ostriches bury their heads in the sand and pretend that nothing has happened. What I can tell you is if you do that, it's going to come back and bite you later on, and it'll come back and bite you worse. So the minute you realise something is not working, flag it to the right people and tell them what's going on. If you realise that, you have had an integral part to play in this, one of the first things I would do is apologise. Now, when I know that I have screwed up, I actually stick my hands in the air. And for those of you that speak Latin, mea culpa, I say, rather pompously. My fault. Yeah, acknowledge it. Hands up. I fucked up. I own it. Now, there's something super powerful about owning your part in a mistake, in a fuck up, in a failure. If you can proactively own it, take responsibility for it and say, yep, actually, that was my fault. I didn't do this. I should have done. I'm sorry. Actually, you're really reclaiming your power back. Get there first, okay? The longer you wait, the more it builds up. You can actually diffuse a situation by owning it, apologising, and, then you can move on, and it'll make you actually look pretty powerful and in your strength if you're able to do that. It's very, very tempting to blame others when there is a big up or a big failure. Now, it could be blaming external circumstances, it could be blaming other people. There's actually something in our brains that we will default to look outside at others first rather than looking at ourselves. It is a thing. There is some piece of programming in our lovely brains that actually makes us do that. So when something happens, you have got to resist the temptation to think, oh, well, if so-and-so had done this, this wouldn't have happened. You don't want to be a victim. You don't want to be seen to be blaming others. You have to take responsibility for your part in what's happened. And this is where I'm going to suggest, particularly at work, you actually take more action. So if you can be really proactive in looking at what part did you play, what could you have done differently, and actually go and take some proactive action. Go and sit down with somebody, ask for feedback. If you need more training, if you need more guidance in something because you didn't get it right, ask for it. So the idea of being proactive and asking for help, being seen to want to put it right, being seen to want to learn the lessons from it is also very, very powerful. And no one's going to knock you for that. And actually, you can come out of a failure smelling of roses and doing your personal brand a huge amount of good if you take these steps, if you own it. This is not rocket science, but in the heat of the moment, our emotions can take over and we get very upset and we start beating ourselves up. And of course, the inner critic has an absolute field day. Oh, I told you shouldn't do that. Told you wouldn't be able to do it. Step back, take a deep breath, approach it very rationally and go, okay, I screwed up. I own it. I apologise. What do I need to do differently? What action do I need to take? Who do I need to talk to? It will do you huge amounts of good. We all fail, right? It's how you manage it. If you walk into a restaurant, you order a steak, it comes the way you didn't want it, piece of old leather. You say to the waitress, my steak's well done, I asked it medium rare. She doesn't quibble, she whips it away. She says, don't worry, we'll bring another one back, no problem. Can I get you a drink? If they take something off the bill, they handle it well, you'll probably go back to the restaurant. Scenario B, you order a steak, it's tough as old boots, the waitress couldn't give a shit, doesn't really apologise, isn't really terribly engaged or interested, nothing is done as a recompense, nothing's knocked off the bill, you might not go back. So it's how you manage it. That's the difference. But what I really, really want to urge you to do is to think about, are you being motivated or are your behaviours coming from a place of failure avoidance? Because if that is the case, as I say, you are keeping yourself limited. You're keeping yourself small, and you're not allowing the world to see all your talents and abilities because you're afraid you're going to cock it up or whatever. So if you're not failing, I suggest you're not taking the risks. And that's something to really take a close look at. So I want to hear about your failures. I want to hear about your fuck-ups. I want to hear about what happened. I want to hear about what process you went through. How did your inner voice behave? Did it give you a hard time? Did you beat yourself up? Or were you kind to yourself? How did you deal with it? Did you go through those stages? You know, give me some examples of what happened and how you dealt with it. And then think about how you might reframe it and start building a different relationship with failure. It's necessary, you know, it's not to be feared, it's to be embraced. So give me some feedback and let me know what experiences you've had and how you've dealt with it. And like and subscribe here on the channel. Look at my website, www.thesassygodmother.com. You can sign up for regular monthly pearl drops. One thing to think about for the next month. Check me out on Instagram @SassyGodmother and TikTok @SassyGodmother. And I'll see you next week.